The NBA season is less than a week away. We're recording this on October 17th, 2024, and we're going to be predicting the standings for the Eastern Conference at the end of the season. How are we feeling, guys?
This is going to be interesting. There's a couple teams that I'm very excited to watch, and a lot more teams that I'm a lot less excited to watch. So, we'll see who ends up on top here.
Excited and ready to see the Lakers beat the Timberwolves on opening night. So,
the official Fuck It We Ball predictions. All three of us put together our lists of how we think the Eastern Conference standings are going to look, and then we took the average of all of those. So, if you're mad at our decisions here, don't blame us. Blame Ben's math. It's on him. Kicking it off with the worst team in the East, according to Fuck It We Ball. Number 15, the Detroit Pistons. What do you guys think about this squad?
unfortunately for the Pistons, we are not moved by Fontecchio, Malik
Speak
Beasley.
For yourself, my brother.
We're not moved by Oscar Thompson, who still cannot touch the basketball on the offensive side of the floor. It's kind of enough said with the Pistons. Not a whole lot of upside. It's pretty bad over there in Detroit.
Blanket statement, not even basketball related.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much more to add to that. I only have I've got, a decent chunk paragraph written down for most of these teams. I have 3 letters written down for Detroit, ASS. I think that's really all we need to say.
Yeah, you know what? I am going to say, I think you guys are low on the Pistons. I think they might get all the way up to 13th, but, that's just me. I'm very high on Tobias Harris.
Never something you want to hear.
All right, I think we're good to move on.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
At number 14, we have the Washington Wizards. Give me your thoughts.
Here's where my list heavily deviates. I'm very moved by Jonas Valanciunas here. And so I moved him all the way up to 13th. Pretty bold, I know.
I think this team might be looking at 8 wins. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. They have, I don't know, maybe 5 NBA players on this team. Their number one option is going to be Jordan Poole. I feel like I've just said enough there. Free Corey Kispert.
I don't know, man. I think you guys are sleeping on the power of Malcolm Brogdon playing for the team he's always wanted to suit up for. I think that'll be a pretty big motivator.
Zach, what's your take on the Wizards roster? I just need, in a few words, what are your thoughts?
You see, I don't even need a few, because I also have the same 3 letters written down. This team is straight ass.
That sounds about right. Don't be surprised if this ends up being a 2012 Bobcats season for the Wizards. That's my hot take.
This is the ass all-star team. They have Alex Sarr 015, Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma play the airball clips of preseason, Sadiq Bey, and Marvin Bagley. So I think that's a star-studded lineup there, I must say.
At number 13 in the East, we have the Brooklyn Nets. The Cam Thomas show, some have called it.
I am going to stick up for the Nets a little bit here. I think I wouldn't say they're a level above Washington and Detroit, but I think they've got a few areas where they're slightly less bleak. They've got, like you said, Cam Thomas is going to put up, he's going to score 35 and 5 a night. I'm sure of it, actually. You can lock that in. And that'll carry them to a few wins. Simmons looked okay, too, in preseason. I think it'd be nice to see him healthy again, but, still Ben Simmons at the end of the day. And then their new coach was Jordi Torres. Look, he looks pretty solid. He was running like a real system in the preseason game I watched, which is more than, some of these teams. So I think they get, 3 or 4 more wins than the bottom 2.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Zach is predicting 11 wins for the Nets.
Yeah, not much more to add there. Killian Hayes, Ben Simmons, it's just like, what a time to be alive.
Yeah, I have pretty much nothing to say about the Nets. It's going to be Cam Thomas shooting 35 times a game, Ben Simmons playing 9 games. I don't know. I will give you, Zach, that they're better than the Wizards and the Pistons, but I mean, it's like they live in Iraq and those two teams live in Syria. I don't think it's that good of a situation.
Shout out Shake Milton.
Absolutely do not shout out Jake Milton on the show. Coming in at number 12, we have the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, I think this team is definitely a step up from the bottom three, but they still lack an identity, I would say. I mean, Grady Dick could play a pretty big role in improving this team if he can develop more of a bag shooting from a moving platform. Just, being able to get to more spots. That would really open it up for RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes there. But, as it stands, they just have horrible spacing and, not a ton of talent down the depth chart.
I think their talent's all right for the future. It's just not their season, and I just don't think they have any incentive to win at all. They could easily be down with the Wizards in Detroit, like just trying to tank.
I mean, they've got Scotty Barnes. He'll be pretty good for a while. Other than that, they've got like a bunch of role players that would be good on a good team. Like, what is Bruce Brown doing there? They've got Kelly Olynyk chilling. I don't know exactly what this team is trying to do, but I don't think it's going to work. I think they'll be pretty bad. But, yeah, definitely a tier above the bottom three in the East.
Yeah, I could see them, if they had any incentive to maybe trying to be vying for a play-in spot, but they just have no reason to do so.
The last spot outside of the play-in, number 11, we've got the Chicago Bulls.
I mean, we all know what the issues are, right? The talent's just not there. They've got way too many guards too. Like, I was looking at their depth chart, probably 4 of their best 5 players are all guards. And then they of course have no depth at the front court as a result of that. Shout out Lonzo Ball. Glad to see he's doing well in preseason here, but just not a lot this team can offer, especially if they have the injury issues that they did last year.
Yeah, we here at Fuck We Ball are not moved by Josh Giddey and talentless Horton Fucker.
Yeah, no, this team sucks. They're pretty lucky that this bottom 4 in the East exists, because this is a really bad roster. It's Lonzo Ball, if he plays a good amount of games this season, which I guess we'll see, and then Zach LaVine. I'm not too terribly moved by 2025 Nikola Vucevic. There's just not a lot going on in Chicago, and I know Bulls fans are pretty pissed about the state the team's in, which checks out looking at their roster. And I mean, 11th in the East, realistically that could be a 25-win team.
I mean, there's just a bunch of fit issues too with that backcourt. Like, your best 2 players are probably Kobe White and Zach LaVine, and you really can't play them together. They're, both super ball dominant. And then Giddey just doesn't do a whole lot on the NBA basketball court. So if you do like Ball with, Kobe White or Zach LaVine, that probably makes the most sense. But like, Ball is not, looking at him in preseason, he didn't seem to, have really any sort of athleticism. Looks like that's regressed a fair amount. So this is just going to be a bad team on both ends of the floor.
Moving on to the play-in. The 10 seed, we all agree on the Charlotte Hornets.
I'm cautiously optimistic about Charlotte. I think, I made this prediction on the assumption of a healthy LaMelo Ball. I think, if he's out for the whole season again, you can bump them down into Washington, Detroit territory. But, with healthy LaMelo, who's, still all-star level player, year 2 Brandon Miller, it's actually a pretty solid backcourt, considering what they've been through in the past. And then they got Josh Green in the offseason as well, who he'll give some spacing for Miller to attack the rim and, get some more points out of the Melo drive and kick. You could see them not necessarily be good, but, develop some sort of identity, which they haven't had since, like, Kemba Walker 8 years ago.
All their young players are either shipped out or they're in like year 3, 4, and 5. So it's like it's just about damn time that they're somewhat in the mix. I'm not sure what year it was, but they were in the play-in. I think like the first year it was implemented. So they realistically like should have been here a while ago. I just think with the East being so bad that Brandon Miller and LaMelo and Josh Green should be able to. One of those guys is going to average 20. It's hard to drop them below the rest of these teams. So
yeah, I agree with most of that. I'm pretty high on Trey Mann as a backup guard too. I think he can carry the scoring on a bench unit pretty well. And then you guys are forgetting the real key piece here, which is Grant Williams, who's gonna tie it all together. But yeah, this roster's not atrociously ass. It's like okay, which in the East is enough to get you in the play-in. I could see him getting like 40-ish wins, maybe.
Yeah, I think I have them written down for like 37 wins, something like that. I think definitely in that caliber of teams that would be bottom 4 in the West, but sneak in the playoffs in the East.
Yeah, for sure. They also have solid depth. I mean, not this is the East play-in we're talking about, but they have some solid bigs with the Mark Williams and Nick Richards. Like not nothing that will jump out at you, but
they're NBA players though.
Yeah.
That's better than a lot of the rest of the East.
Taj Gibson with his 20 millionth season. So
the number 9 seed for like the 800th year in the row, we are predicting the Atlanta Hawks.
I'll be the resident Hawks fan here, and I'll say I actually had them at 8 rather than 9. So I know, pretty big display of my faith, but I liked what I saw preseason. I think removing DeJounte Murray has just made the offense a lot more, makes a lot more sense. And then ball movement is a lot better now. Jalen Johnson also was looking great. I think he might take another leap after already having a great last season. Dyson Daniels looked good. Reese Shea obviously has been playing great, but he's a rookie playing preseason. I think it's probably too early to make a real call there. The defense is a little lacking, obviously. Any Trae Young team is going to have that issue. Probably one of the best teams they've had since their conference finals run.
I'd probably agree with that. I think the DeJounte Murray thing was a failed experiment, and it never really made sense to put another ball-dominant guard next to Trae. I'm a little confused about what the Hawks' plan at center is. Like, is it going to be Okongwu? Is it going to be Capella? There were a lot of rumors about them trading Capella, and that never materialized. But, I mean, it's a solid roster. I think Reese Shea will be decent for them. Jalen Johnson's going to continue to improve. I'm really high on him. But this is a team that I think will be pretty good in a couple of years, but they're still pretty much stuck in the middle right now.
Yes, kind of same thing with the Hornets here. So like they have NBA players like Larry Nance off the bench, David Roddy off the bench. It's like not moving me too much, but
all right.
David Roddy name drop. That is insane.
They have Bogdan Bogdanovic, which we didn't mention, but he's always pretty solid at just like, okay, Trey's finally passing the ball, shoot it now. So that's like the description of like half this roster. They're just gonna wait on a Trae Young pass. Yeah, so that's why I don't see them getting out of the play-in.
Definitely not. But they'll make the play-in probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be hard not to.
Yeah, the Hawks are the play-in merchants, so.
Not something you'd love to be, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll be around 500. 41 wins or so. That probably checks out for the Hawks.
Yeah, mark it on your calendars, guys. Heat Hawks play-in game.
Pure entertainment. The Terry Rozier revenge game, many are calling it. Speaking of, at the 8th seed, we've got the Miami Heat.
Yeah, so I had Miami below Atlanta. I think it could be any order really. They're just getting worse each season. Like they lost Caleb Martin to Philly, and they didn't really add anyone useful. They re-signed some of their good players. I think they extended Haywood Highsmith, who I like a fair amount. But I mean, Rozier didn't seem to be working out before he got injured, and then they're just not a ton of offense outside of that, and Butler's not getting any younger either. So I think this team's probably going to be the next team to blow it up if they're smart.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about their scoring this season, especially off the bench, because it's like Hawkes is all right, and then Kevin Love's a billion years old. Haywood Highsmith isn't really a scorer. I don't really see where they get their offense once their starters go to the bench. And like if you don't have Jimmy or Hero out there, I don't see who's initiating the offense. Because like you said, Terry Rozier didn't look great for them. Maybe he'll improve with like a full off season with the team, but I don't know. I'm not really sold on this team, and I haven't been for the past couple of years.
Yeah, they're gonna have to lean on Bam pretty heavily throughout the regular season. So he looked good in the Olympics, and he's shooting threes now, I guess. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but maybe Jimmy Butler will participate in a regular season for the first time in like 5 years, but highly doubtful. He'll just miss like 30 games and average like 20. I do think Bam can have like a breakout season in terms of stats, but I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it translating into too many wins.
I forgot to account for the addition of Alec Burks, so take back everything I said about having no scoring off the bench. He's going to go nuclear for the Heat. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, they'll win some games off this defense. Like, they've got some serious bruisers. Like, Bam Adebayo is obviously insane defender. You know, Butler, that's one of his strongest areas. Duncan Robinson is really not bad at all on that end. Hawkes is great. So, I mean, they'll win some games, 97 to 91. But, when they go up against any real team, they're just kind of gonna drown in offense.
The last play-in spot, 7 seed, we've got the Orlando Magic. What are your guys' thoughts?
So I've got Orlando one spot higher, really just because of kind of some projections relating to KCP. I think, with that spacing, this team was not a great shooting team. I think they were or just offensive team in general. I want to say they were bottom 10 in offense, despite being, a playoff team. So I think once you have that spacing, I think that's going to allow Paolo to get to the rim more, get to his spots more efficiently, but also just develop as a passer. I think, having more people around him who it's worth passing to be honest. I think this whole offense will take a decent step forward from being pretty poor last year, and obviously KCP's a great defender as well, so that strong defense should continue.
Before I made any of the rankings, I just assumed that the Magic would move up in the standings, but just because how the top of the East is stacked up, for me, I don't think KCP really moves the ball for you in a regular season. I could be wrong. I don't see him adding 5, 6, 7 wins. He's more of he'll make them win playoff games, which is what they really need, because they're automatically going to make the playoffs in the East just by having solid coaching and solid young players. But I just don't see it translating as much to the regular season wins. Pretty much the same roster from last year with KCP. So they'll for sure be solid.
Yeah, we've gotten out of the shit and the mid in the East, and once you get into this top half, I mean, the East is actually pretty good from 1 to 7. So even though we've got the Magic in this play-in spot here, I'm just gonna assume they'd win that play-in game, and then whatever team is the 2 seed would not enjoy playing the Magic in the first round. This is a pretty good team. They'll have a really good defense. Their offense will be better. I still think it'll be a problem. They end up here because, like I said, the top of the East is good. I could easily see them going higher, up to 5. I think they're in a similar tier to the next 2 teams we're going to talk about. Someone's got to be at the bottom of the group of good teams, and I think it probably will be the Magic. First playoff spot, the 6th seed, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers.
So I have Cleveland down at 7. I think, like you said, they're in the same tier as these next 3 teams. But I think I have a few concerns about Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, that backcourt. I tuned into a preseason game just to see if Kenny Atkinson had figured out a way to kind of work around that, because that was a big issue they had under Bickerstaff previously, and it looked kind of the same. whenever one of them has the ball, the other just like stands perfectly still in the corner, which, it's fine, but then when you consider that these are both not great defenders, I just feel like not moving Garland was a pretty underrated mistake for this offseason. I think, when he's out, you can just tell the offense makes so much more sense. Defensively, despite that backcourt, you've still got Evan Mobley and Jared Allen playing together, so they're always going to be a good defense. And they've figured out how to work around those two. Like on the offensive end, they just kind of bring Jared up to the top of the key and let Mobley stay on the block. Some issues with that backcourt that has me doubting them in comparison to, some other pretty good teams. Like this top, like you said, top 7 is pretty competitive.
Yeah, to me, it's the same problem for the Cavs that they've had. Their starting lineup is really good. Then you get to the bench, and they've got some solid role players, but like their 6th man would be the 8th man on a better team, a team with more depth, and that's just the problem. Its depth is going to be the biggest issue for them. Even though I agree that Garland and Mitchell don't really mesh together too well, they've gotten around that in the past a little bit and still been solid, even though weirdly they've been better when one of them's out. I see this team being still pretty good, but when a lot of other teams have made actual improvements, this team didn't really add depth that they needed. It's pretty close to the same roster as last year. I see them moving back in the standings a little bit, but they'll still be pretty good.
Yeah, unfortunately, Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell can't guard a parked car, so that's a problem. And then yeah, they kind of just do all the same things on offense for the most part, and it's same roster and everything from last year. So yeah, like you said, Nate, there's teams above them that have got a lot of talent. I will say here I think it has to be an error on the ESPN roster, because I see a fellow named Amar Cook here, age 42,
Wait,
who last played in 2005 for the Toronto Raptors. I was just a bit caught off guard from that.
Could this be the underrated move of the summer to push the Cavs over the top?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing a basketball reference, so.
How did he
That's
end up
not
on
good.
ESPN?
Yeah.
2001 second round pick. He is
Yeah.
an American / Montenegrin professional basketball player.
Oh my god.
Blazers legend Amar Cook.
Okay, when you Google him and scroll down a little bit, you see Amar Cook, Cleveland Cavaliers guard, and then there's a picture of Max Strus.
Scratch everything I said. Omar Cook puts them over.
Moving up to the 5th seed, we have the Indiana Pacers. How do we feel about their season?
This is a similar case of them not making any huge moves and everyone else around them getting better. In fairness, Halliburton missed a lot of time last season, and then when he came back, he didn't look like himself. So if we get a full season of him playing like he was in the in-season tournament, I think that'll probably boost them a little bit, as well as having Siakam around for a full season. They'll probably end up having a similar amount of wins, but in terms of standings, yeah, they just kind of didn't change anything when other people did.
It's really close to the same roster that they had last season. Their big move was James Wiseman, which obviously is going to be huge for them. I wonder what they're planning with Benedict Mathurin. I've seen some rumors that he might get moved, and I mean, he doesn't really seem to fit that well with their current roster, but I don't know, maybe they'll make it work. He was out for most of last season, so if he does come back and fit into the roster seamlessly, that could end up being the improvement that they need, but I don't know. I don't think they did that much to get better in the offseason, so they'll end up at around the same spot that they did last season. They'll be a good team. They'll be tough to beat in the playoffs, but I don't really see them as real contenders.
I'm pretty high on Benedict Mathurin. He's only 22. I can see him as a 20 a game scorer in the not too distant future.
I think he'll be good too. I just think they have a lot of guards in Indiana, and I don't know if he's going to fit into the rotation.
Oh, he for sure will fit in the rotation, unless TJ McConnell's going to take his minutes. So, I mean, which is possible. But yeah, they have a solid squad, pretty much the same as last year. They get Benedict Mathurin back from injury. maybe they'll hook up some more sets for Siakam and get him going. It's kind of hard to put him any higher than this, just because of the teams we're dealing with up here at the top of the East, which is pretty stacked, even compared to the West. I mean, pretty top heavy. So
at the 4 seed, we have the Milwaukee Bucks, and I'm sure we've all got a lot of thoughts about this. Zach, I think I'll kick it to you first as the resident Dame expert.
I'm decently pessimistic about Milwaukee, at least in terms of Dame and Giannis. To start off with the good news, I do like the additions of Gary Trent Jr. and Taurean Prince. You know, their big issues were defense and depth. I think those 2 signings actually do a lot to help that. But in terms of their big 2, if you're unaware, they did not meet up to work together this offseason at all. And that has me very concerned that the 2-man game is never going to work out, especially because, Doc Rivers is coaching. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of mid-season adjustments, to say the least. And then I think, to be honest, them not working out has me concerned about chemistry issues too, and as well as, Giannis's comments about kind of implying that he would be traded if they didn't win the championship without anyone in the organization implying that. Just has me really weirded out about the relationship between these two and how committed they are to working together.
They had a big addition over the offseason. They got Darvin Ham back. So. Pretty elite coaching staff, you know what I mean? The Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham. Certainly some people should be afraid, and it's probably the Bucks fans. So, also looking at their roster, they just have a bunch of old farts. Like Brook Lopez is 36. It's gonna fall off at some point. Chris Middleton allegedly has ankles. I'm not sure if he actually does. The next couple of years could be very horrible for the Bucks. But this season, at least, with Gary Trent probably in the starting lineup and Taurean Prince, I don't know. With Darvin Ham, Taurean Prince will be in the starting lineup. I was about to say off of the bench, but he will be starting at some point in the season. They should be solid on paper. If they have any chemistry issues, it could go pretty south. And not even to mention injuries, which Giannis has been hurt a lot come playoff time. Dame is 34 now, and he always gets an injury at some point in the season. So I think they'll be good. I just don't think their squad's going to play enough games together, and the coaching isn't going to be there. They could easily be the number 1 seed with proper chemistry and coaching. Kind of just middle of the road in terms of the top teams in the NBA. Even though you have, one of the best players in the league, and then Damian Lillard has been top 3 guard in the league. So the potential's there, but, Doc Rivers, man. So
yeah, my thoughts exactly. There's a lot of talent on this roster. The depth is not incredible, but it's fine. We will be seeing a lot of Taurean Prince. Yeah, we've seen Doc Rivers teams be good in the regular season. That's happened before, so it could happen again. But then we've also seen Doc Rivers teams in the playoffs. I don't really think I'd call this team a contender, but they should be pretty good, especially in the regular season. Moving up to the top 3. At the 3 seed in the East, we have the Philadelphia 76ers.
I have them at 2, rather than 3. I think some of it is due to injury concerns with the Knicks, which I'll touch on later. I think if Embiid stays healthy, this team could honestly outpace Boston just in terms of regular season wins. Historically, with the Embiid core, they've been a very good regular season team. Embiid was having his best season of his career last year before he got injured. I think if we see that again, they were, I think, the 1 seed pretty much the whole time he was healthy last season. So I think hinging on Embiid staying healthy, which is a big if, to be fair.
That door's falling off.
He can usually make it through a regular season. At least he has a few times. So I think, just very good regular season team. And they've also had a pretty underrated offseason. They got rid of Tobias Harris. Obviously got Paul George, who's not the player he once was, but if Embiid does miss time, Paul George can step in to recreate some of that offense. They also got Caleb Martin and Reggie Jackson, two great role players. Their bench talent wasn't great before, so I think they kind of helped with that. I like this team. I like what they've done with the offseason.
I could see this team being really good, but let me explain why I'm a little bit down on them. There's two reasons. Well, there's three reasons. One of them's Paul George. The other two are this team is old and this team is injury prone. Trust me when I say that one of the reasons is Paul George. I've seen old injury prone teams with Paul George on them before. You are not going to like the end of the season. I just don't think you can trust this team to stay healthy. Embiid gets hurt pretty commonly. Paul George, it got overshadowed because he plays with the most injury-prone player of all time, but he gets hurt all the time.
He's already hurt.
Yeah. Literally from walking backwards. Maxi's pretty durable, but he's also the only player that's going to play real minutes that's under 28. Yeah, I don't know. It's an old team that gets hurt, which to me does not scream success come April. But, I mean, if they do miraculously stay healthy, this is at least a top 3 team in the East and maybe the best. Probably not, but I could see them winning a title if they were to stay healthy.
I'm iffy on the title shots, even healthy, just considering Embiid and Paul George in the playoffs.
That's a fair point.
It's just been horrible. It could go better, but I mean, when Paul George had Kawhi, it didn't help him. Very hit or miss in the playoffs. Yeah, with the 3C projection, I kind of factored in injuries. I'm still expecting Embiid to miss like half the season and Paul George to miss like 30 games. But even still, if you get Maxey healthy with that, it's a 3 seed. We'll talk more about the playoff hopes once we actually see him together, if we ever see him together, because I mean, Paul George is hurt. Decent likelihood Embiid and Paul George don't play more than like 20 games this upcoming season, so that'll be the main question with them.
Number 2 seed, we have New York Knicks with all their new bullshit going on. What do you guys think about that?
Non-fraudulent 2 seed this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I think we touched a lot on what New York has going on in our cat reaction, but I mean, it's just a great roster, 1 through 5. You got shooters at every position. You've got some incredible defense, for most of your positions. Obviously, you can Cat and Brunson, but the other 3 are pretty great. And then it's the classic Tibbs injury concerns when he plays all these guys 44 minutes a night, and then the depth coming off the bench when these guys get injured is pretty weak. You've got solid, I would say, next 3 off the bench with like McBride, Chua, and someone else who I'm blanking on. But
if Mitchell Robinson ever plays, he would probably be that.
Right, which is looking like a no from what I've seen. So like if you get 2 or 3 of these starters out, they'll drop a fair amount of games, I think. But I mean, as a team, I probably like them more than Philly. Just concerns about classic Tibbs stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we talked a lot about it in our Cat Randall trade video, so I'll keep it short. And you pretty much said everything I was going to say. It's a really good team. If injuries didn't exist, this is one of the best teams in the league. They'll probably end up with a pretty catastrophic injury that's going to make them drop a lot of games, but we can't really predict that. It's a good team. The depth is lacking, but the starting 5 is crazy. They'll probably be pretty good.
Yeah, I think they have too many wings for Tibbs to injure all of them. So I think they'll be fine there. I had them as the 1 seed over the Celtics. Kind of assuming that Mitchell Robinson comes back. If he is able to play, he'll be able to take some minutes off Cat, so they'll be ready for the playoffs. But I mean, for the regular season, Tibbs is an insane coach. And you could take that in 2 ways. He's gonna play all his guys, but their record is gonna be insane. I think if they don't pass away from over Josh, they'll be the 1 seed.
Speaking of the 1 seed, average of the Fuck It We Ball numbers picks does come out to be the Boston Celtics, unfortunately for your prediction, Ben. It feels like we haven't talked about a single team more than the Boston Celtics in the past year or so, which I mean makes sense because they won the title, but I don't know. I kind of feel like we've said everything there is to say about this team.
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't even really do anything this offseason. They just like re-signed their entire team basically somehow. So I mean, we've seen this team. We know what they can do. Pretty clear they're going to be the best in the East.
No one really challenged them last season. I mean, they had easily the best record in the East. I think they dropped, like 3 games in the playoffs. They have no reason not to run it back, and they did with pretty much the exact same roster. But yeah, it's the same team as last year. They're obviously great. They'll probably just walk to another title, if I'm honest. Hopefully that's not what happens. Now, Ben, you had them as the 2 seed, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Why are you so down on the Celtics? Are you a hater?
Oh, most certainly.
That's what we love.
Allegedly, they have a chip on their shoulder because
From what?
from the Olympics is the whole narrative where Jason Tatum just did shit in the thing and got benched, rightfully so. It's more of like a media thing. And then Jaylen Brown didn't make the Olympic team, but Derek White did, so I guess that's supposed to mean something. I don't know.
I hope it ruins their chemistry, because White and Holiday were playing in the Olympics while Tatum sat his ass down.
Yeah. But yeah, I do have them as the 2 seed. I mean, it's not like I have them missing the playoffs. I just think that the Knicks will be very good, and it'll take I don't know, 8 wins off the Celtics. They're only going to win 58 games. I think that wear and tear could be a factor a little bit. I don't know. They have some infinite money glitch, dude. They just they have 4 or 5 players on the roster making 20 million, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are making 600 million over the next 3 years. So I do think that is a factor, because I mean, Porzingis missed time in the playoffs. Al Horford's a dinosaur. Not that they don't have decent depth to fill the gaps of any one of those guys, but at the end of the day, I mean, Tatum and Brown miss a combined 35 games, and it causes them to lose 8 more games than they would have otherwise, and it drops them down to the 2 seed. Still a really good squad.
Those are our predictions for the Eastern Conference this upcoming season. Now that we're finished, I can say we did it.
Oh my God.
We did it. We did it!
Oh Lord.
Thanks for watching, everybody. If you made it this far, you're an absolute goat. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.